After summer, I clear away the vulgar corpses from my flower beds.
Poetry was really striking throughout as a grounding for this piece. I love the juxtaposition of images and the styles, the natural world captured versus the stylistic, the animation and documentary style images creating these lovely layers of almost like a scrapbook, almost like a brainstorming session happening in the mind. And it both supported the poetry, but also created more nuance as well and more bouncing off one another, which I thought was really fun in its exploration. I thought the soundscape of that haunting piano created kind of a nostalgic feeling to it. And then the rattling of foliage brushing together in fiction was great for the friction that was created by the layering of these images and sounds. I also love that slight golden glow suggesting a sunrise or a sunset, despite an almost gloomy tone.
I mean, there's a mix between like nature videography, animation, some historical footage. I mean, then you have the VO, it's very poetic in its delivery. It's coming from a perspective of this woman sharing her innermost thoughts, right? And so I think that makes it personal and very introspective in tone. But the imagery, sometimes I often wondered why this particular imagery for this particular VO. And that I think was, definitely an artistic perspective and point of view in the choices of the different visuals to use is what makes this, experimentational in tone as well.
Like insects have this feeling that make your skin crawl, and we're getting this sort of grotesque yet beautiful approach to nature in its form of death and decomposition. And we get to see the worms and the mud and everything like that. So it sort of makes your skin crawl, yet the cinematography really encapsulates this in a beautiful way that we get to sort of appreciate it. And the sounds and everything too. It's the sound design of this is what makes you feel like all tingly and you know it's kind of eerie and creepy and experimentally gross, but in a good way.
This was interesting because of all the different elements to it. The animation, the live action, the bugs, the flowers, the lupine plant. All these different things put together were interesting and creative on its own. And like to me, the narration was more poetic, sort of a poetry. And I think she's comparing herself as a new mother who's breastfeeding and maybe not able to provide as much for her child as she wishes she could with this lupine plant. I'm not a mom. I've never had a kid, so I'm not really sure if I got this right, but I feel like it's also about the doubt she has as far as providing that to her child and sort of weaning off of that. I know I've talked to new mothers and the weaning off process is very difficult and sad and emotional. So I think it's something to do with that. But I liked all the different elements, and watching this was very interesting. And the performance, as far as their narration, was really well done.